Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican. I'm running for the mayor of Abbotsford, British Columbia, to bring the RCMP into Abbotsford and go after the organized crime. Today, I want to stand in front of the BC Conservative M.L.A.'s office, Korky, Neufeld. And I want to call the Conservatives out on the carpet for not controlling their M.L.A.'s and not making their M.L.A.'s do the work for the constituents, but rubbing shoulders with the city bureaucrats and the city establishment to hold power. It's unacceptable. It is unacceptable as a human being, never mind as an M.L.A., to know what's taking place in your elective duty and then basically spit in Abbotsford residents' face. So I want to begin with the story of Korky Neufeld. I can tell you that I never put my endorsement or my support or anything behind this candidate, M.L.A. for the Conservatives, even though I was a Conservative. He was too wishy-washy, too much. So what is Korky Neufeld doing? Korky Neufeld is pretending he's the big dog of Abbotsford. He went into other M.L.A.'s riding. He basically pushed Bruce Banman away, and he's made it clear that I'm the big dog. He introduced Amrk at the ledge that's running for city councils unfairly. He was at Amrk's party the other night and unveiling right beside Amrk's election sign that Amrk's running. It's illegal, it's criminally wrong, and you're not allowed to be doing that. First of all, and Amrk's a lawyer. Jerry Palmer was there, he's a lawyer. Mark Warkentine, a elected city council, a conflict of interest. He's a lawyer. That was the man that was on the Abbotsford Police Board. And Mike DeYoung, the liberal that caused a lot of problems in Abbotsford, a liberal. And he was there, and he was a lawyer. And Simon Gibson, another elected city council, and they're all for Amrk. Ed Fast was there, all his establishment liberals, all liberals. And Korky Neufeld, our Conservative, tied in there. These are the people that tried to take Caroline Findlay out. And you know what Ian Black had said, you know what Mike DeYoung said about the BC Conservative Caroline Findlay, you know what Ed said about Caroline Findlay. And now we got my M.L.A., or your M.L.A., not Abbotsford's, BC Conservative Caroline Findlay's M.L.A., hanging with them. And this is bad for the BC Conservatives because he's not working for the Conservatives, he's working for establishment. And guys like that will cross the floor. And he needs to be stopped. So he figures that he's tied to Heather Moss, who's the party whip, and he's got some say. But he's going to try to show Caroline Findlay that I'm the big dog in Abbotsford now. Bruce is nobody. You see, I'm running every riding. I was in Bruce's riding with Amrk, and I'm the big dog here, and you'll need to come through me, and I got the establishment. But I want you to watch something, and I want you to pay attention to this.
I'm Doug McCannons.
That's Doug McCannons. Doug McCannons was also on Abbotsford First. He sat on the board. He went to every meeting of what Abbotsford First did. And he was on that board. Doug McCannons was also on Marcus Dalvis, who was a Liberal BC, when Marcus Dalvis went for the BC Liberal nomination against Bruce. He was one of the scrutinees and on that team for Marcus Dalvis. Marcus Dalvis was the one that gave Dave Sadu $10,000 to buy the Liberal nomination, went to Andrew Wilkinson's. Now he's endorsing Amrk, another lawyer. There must be no more money in being a lawyer because David Eby let criminals out on the street. So now all these lawyers are going into politics so they can do these things behind the scene. And what took place at this party, I showed you, we had Simon Gibson there. I showed you Mark Warkentine standing beside Mike DeYoung. Everybody was there. But I want something to be clear to Caroline Findlay. when she goes for an election and she tries to take the NDP out or one BC, who wasn't at this high elite party of the establishment were any South Asians. Amrk Moran's friend and Korky Neufeld, Joe from Short Road, was not there. Dave Sidhu was not there. Jalilali wasn't there. No South Asians or temple leaders or anybody was there. And basically they're done with Dave Sidhu. They used as much as what they could. They need a new figurehead to represent the South Asians. So the establishment went behind Amrk Moran. And they have cheated him in over my councils that got to run for the people. And this establishment is realizing that it needs to hold power, and it's trying to rebuild itself. And they're all liberals, all liberals. Mike DeYoung and all of these are liberals. You can go to Amrk Moran's webpage and you can see his whole thing posted out, and Korky Neufeld there. But it calls for Caroline Findlay that wanted to control the BC Conservatives, bring them back together, and get the Liberals out of there to call Korky Neufeld out. Now, Korky Neufeld has done a lot of damage, and he's trying to be the big top dog of Abbotsford. And he's went in because the establishment needs to remove Bruce Bamman. They need to get back power. They've lost power massively, provincially and federally. They're trying to do it through municipality, and you can see it now in the municipal. And they're trying to get Korky to be the top dog. And Korky went into all these ridings. In my opinion, Korky would be telling Caroline Findlay and Heather Moss, look, I control the South Asians. I control the players of Abbotsford. And that you could clearly see. Mike DeYoung, one of the biggest players. Oh, you know, Mikey. And you could see Amrk Moran. They're trying to advertise him. I wonder who his financial agent was on that sign. I wonder what financial agency he was using. Mark Workentine, a city elected council and a lawyer into Ed's old practice, and he was there of a conflict of interest. Simon Gibson was there. Old Ed Fast was there. I was told that Ross, he showed up and he bailed out. And they were trying to advertise this and get this as the establishment group together. Here's Korky Neufeld with Amrk Moran in front of his campaign man and a sign already. He's already advertising. And the group, here's Mark Workentine. Mark Workentine, a city elected official there. Here's Jerry Palmer, a lawyer too, and he's there. Here's Simon Gibson with Amrk Moran, and he's there. And the list just goes on. Here's Mike DeYoung, and he's there. The only one I could not see in there is Brad Viss is missing. This is all a liberal. But my BC Conservative went in on your proposal to Conservatives that he was going to be a Conservative. And he was a false Conservative. He was a liberal all the way. And this would be causing major damage to Caroline Findlay's BC Conservatives. And she needs to address it. She needs to stop him. She needs to call him out. And she needs to put a stop to it, because his job is not to be running around for Amrk Moran and to the establishment. And everybody knows he should not be tied to any liberals, period. But now he wants to own and be the top dog of Abbotsford. And I can just imagine the outfall and the fire that's coming when Bruce Bamman sees this, because he wasn't invited. When Rhiannon Gasper sees it, he wasn't invited because he wasn't there. But the question is this: no South Asians were invited to this all-white party. They weren't there. Why was this? But my South Asians get used for votes. They get used for dump trucks of money, and they get scammed and scammed and scammed. And Dave Sidhu wasn't there because the establishment realized Dave Sidhu's wreck. We used him. We used as much as he can. He caused major problems with his dad, his insider trading on his property, his lift on Farmer Road. So all these lawyers went to meet, and they went there to have a chat to make everybody feel comfortable that they're still in control and they can still own it and they can still do this. And why Bruce wasn't there? Because that was a liberal meeting. Why Rhiannon wasn't there? Because that was a liberal meeting. Why Caroline Findlay wasn't there? Because it was a Liberal meeting. And we see this. This was an all Liberal old meeting of basically holding power and trying to hold power and do this. But I assure you, there must be no more money in representing for your clients in the courtroom or representing ICBC claims or this, because David Eby legalized, we got legalized marijuana, we got less criminal sentence, we're not going after gangs and criminals. So now all these lawyers went over and said we're going to go in politics. But they didn't do it with respect, and as an officer of the court, Amrk Moran knows that's wrong. Jerry Palmer knows that's wrong, and the old King Haven knows, and he knew this was wrong. And Doug McCanning knew that his was wrong. He was the one with involved in Marcus Dalvis's thing. But this is wrong to all the South Asians. Caroline Findlay needs to address this. That why this rich elite establishment, this upper establishment of Abbotsford, had a massive gathering. And what did Amrk Moran do? He asked Joe on Short Road for his endorsement, and Joe was his friend, and used Joe and manipulation and everything. The cockroaches are trying to set back up. And Korky's showing everybody he's the top dog. He's the top dog. This is the man. I don't know where the 71 million on Barrowtown went missing, because he's with all the council. He knows they frauded it. He can't ask them out, so you didn't expect him to ask them hard questions. Ross's gas station over in Mission, he's not going to ask that because he's with them. Dave Sadu's property and Ross Siemens' lift in the insider trading from $21,000 over the agriculture to $60,000, more than it's allowed by the ag, even the ag centers or the ag minister. And why he didn't do this? The Abbotsford police chasing, does it not explain itself? Korky looked like he was unveiling. He is unveiling his newborn child. And it was Amrk Moran's sign. And he stood in front of it. But he's caused the BC Conservatives a lot of problem. And this is why I told you this office should read 1BC M.L.A. Because they're working. I mean, if you'd see, this is a man that don't really like Dallas Brody too much. But she's pulling very hard in the polls. And all she needs, Korky, all she needs is, let's make something clear, because David Eby's M.L.As are telling me, is one person to walk over to the 1BC and give it party status. And whoever's in there, that is going to be the official campaign. But the BC Conservatives are going further in trouble. And what needs to be done, you need a heavy hand. And Caroline Findlay needs to come in there. And she needs to address what Heather Moss's connections are with Korky. They were old buddies and pals, and she's the party whip. Korky's endorsement with Ian Black and Peter Mellabard. And what the heck Korky's doing with all these Liberals. They're trying to set up. And they're setting up in a way to keep the city. The money coming in for the $500 million from David Eby, the flood money and everything else. And this is what they do. My job as your mayor and council is to show that we need a new leadership, we need new mayor, and we need new council, but we need the RCMP. And we got to go after these guys. We cannot allow this stuff to happen. We cannot allow Mike DeYoung to walk freely when he had an illegal party and people were going to jail. We can't allow Ed Fast, which was an MP, to cover up Henry's attempted murder. We can't allow this stuff to take place. My job is to show my voters and my residents that these guys were originating themselves. They're a group of people, and there is the perfect picture of all of them huddling together. But my job is to show my South Asians. None of them deserve your vote. You ask them why they weren't invited to that party. We don't need you yet. We don't need you. But we'll come crawling and begging and crawling and begging and crawling and begging when we need you. The rich mob, the elites, were setting up to own the city, and they needed Amrk Moran in. Amrk Moran has caused a lot of problem. And the prime example is, everybody knows it, Korky, even Eby will probably figured this out without me podcasting. Caroline Findlay figured it out, and Dallas Brody's figured it out. These people are very smart politicians. That Dave Sadu's washed up. You need a new run-fronter for the South Asians, and you're trying to fool the South Asians with Amrk Moran. But the question, none of them were voted, none of them were allowed there. This was the rich of the rich, and all my lawyers from Abbotsford were there. And they were all hanging out. So this is why we need to get tough on crime. We need to go back and change the ICBC rules and everything so we can get our lawyers back in our courtrooms and get them out from being politicians. But Korky Neufeld needs to apologize to 1BC. He needs to apologize to the NDP. He needs to now to apologize to the BC Conservatives for doing what he's doing with the Liberals. And he needs to be gone. This is a man that misled Abbotsford, said he was about the Conservatives, he had the Conservative value and he had everything. He hasn't. That shows you there. And if it was justified, you would have saw Bruce Bamman there, you would have saw Rianne there, you would have saw them all there. They don't miss an opportunity for a photo op and political photo ops and everything else. And this wasn't. Korky Neufeld believes he's the top dog of Abbotsford, and everybody needs to go through him, and that there shows it. And he's going to basically, in my opinion, go to Caroline Findlay and say, listen, I run Abbotsford, and you know I'm very strong. I control the South Asians, and you can see him what he's doing. And the city councils, I got all the words of what needs to be elected and not be elected, and he set himself up there. But when Bruce Bamman sees this, and Rianne Gasper sees this, and Caroline Findlay sees this, Korky Neufeld would have respected to stay in that office, hold the Abbotsford, call the Abbotsford corruption out, Dave Seduce properly and everything. I guarantee you, this man is going to get from Caroline Findlay a cleaning and a ripping and a cleaning and a ripping, because he's weakening the party. And he's weakening it very bad, and he's dividing it, and he's back tied to the Liberals. And he needs to be called out, and he needs to be addressed because he was not a Conservative. But Korky, it is totally unfair for that illegal gathering and all that gathering. And I wonder who is Amrk Moran's financial agent. And if there was alcohol on the shelves, I wonder, Korky, if Amrk Moran's going to claim that rich established party to his campaign, because you got to clarify everything that you're doing. Was this $40,000 or whatever? Did you pay for it? I'm going to Abbotsford residents want me to ask. Did Korky Neufeld pay for that function at Amrk Moran's party? Who paid for it? How much was it cost? Because you got to foreclose these all to the elections BC. Now, it would be fitting as me as mayor and candidate to tell you that I'm going to show all the other councillors running and I challenge Gurpreet Rai, the NDP, to run for council, challenge Suki Dami to run, I challenge Barty Sidhu and everybody. None of the South Asians were there, Gurpreet. Korky, none of the South Asians were there. Barty Sidhu, none of the South Asians were there, and you can see that. If that ain't a slap, and now he needs to apologize to all my South Asians. I'm live. Abbotsford, British Columbia. And this is what Korky Neufeld did. He went over in Bruce's riding in layman's term, showed the South Asians that I'm over there, and I got all the South Asians behind me because he's using Amrk Moran, and that needed to stop. Bruce Bamman needs to go in and say, now, listen, you done stuff over in my riding, I'm going to come into Abbotsford and light up a few videos on you, Korky, party or no party, and I'm going to tell you, what the heck you doing in my riding? Because Korky Neufeld wanted to be the big top dog. And now that's the responsibility you get. When you want to be the big top dog, you'll need to make a few phone calls and ask Mike DeYoung what you need to say. You need maybe Amrk Moran, you need to know what to say, and you need to know this. We need to call that out. We need to make sure, as a Conservatives, as a 1BC or an NDP, men like that don't get in office and get elected. Men like that get let go, and they have to work and find a different way to make a living because they do not represent the Conservative value at all. I'm live. Korky Neufeld, Abbotsford, British Columbia.